refuse to give in to that false narrative. They are contradicting themselves non-stop. Oh my God, world genocide, they're killing us, help us. They open their mouth, they lie. Everything about their identity from day one is a lie. As you know, Israel, the only Jewish country in the world, is fighting an existential war. We've been fighting a war for a year and a half. The world likes to lie about Israel, to vilify Israel, blood libels, things we've experienced throughout our history. This isn't something new, this isn't our first rodeo. But I want to address those blood libels, debunk the lies. Let's just jump in. As far as the war is concerned, people from around the world might be watching CNN or BBC and think, we're in a war zone, we got rockets falling on our heads, Israel won't survive. Clearly, look around, that could not be farther from the truth. So I want to give you a unique perspective on this war, and I'm going to give a disclaimer first. Everything I'm going to say, put it in parentheses. No one is belittling the devastation, the mourning, the loss. That stands alone. And everything I'm going to say does not contradict that. Now that we got that out of the way, this war, unlike any war before it, from beginning to end, is one big miracle. You heard that right. I'm sure you're thinking, miracle? October 7th? How could you say that? Let me explain. Think about this. If you told your grandson, your great-grandson, one day, there was this holiday, it's called Simchat Torah, where the entire state of Israel, basically in synagogue, dancing with the Torah scrolls, and 5,000 genocidal maniacs with one goal and one goal only in mind, which is to kill as many Jews as possible, marched into this country, smaller than New Jersey, with 8 hours of free hand, unlimited access to automatic weapons. And they sprayed bullets in every direction for 8 hours. Your great-grandson's gonna look at you and say, how many millions of people did they kill that day? And you're gonna say, millions? They didn't kill millions. And then he's gonna say to you, all right, well, how many hundreds of thousands? And you're gonna say, it wasn't hundreds of thousands. And then your great-grandson's gonna say, okay, well, how many tens of thousands did they kill that day? And you're gonna say, it wasn't tens of thousands. And then he's gonna say to you, how many people did these 5,000 genocidal maniacs kill that day? 8 hours. And you're gonna look at your great-grandson, you're gonna say, 1,200. And he's gonna look at you and say, that makes no sense. Now, I'm gonna say it again. 1,200 lives is 1,200 worlds. 1,200 devastated families. I know what that's like, and we'll get there too. And I don't want to belittle that, God forbid. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But 1,200 deaths in 8 hours with 5,000 terrorists makes no sense. So it's difficult to use the word miracle about a day as dark as October 7th, so call it whatever you want. The one thing I can tell you, and this is something that applies to the entire war end to end, is it makes no sense. Now, if you call it a miracle, then that begs the question, what kind of God lets October 7th happen? Again, a topic we'll get to, but let's just go on. If it's hard for you to swallow what I'm saying about October 7th, then forget it. Throw it aside, forget October 7th. Let's talk about the events that transpired after October 7th. Let's talk about the rockets. We're talking about, again, I'm gonna say this 1,000 times because it's worth mentioning, a country smaller than New Jersey, tens of thousands of rockets fired into this tiny little country. And we're talking about double digits casualties. Now, again, 60, 70, I don't know the final number. Horrible, devastating. But tens of thousands of rockets and only, quote unquote, 70 casualties? Again, it makes no sense. So let's talk about the Iron Dome. If you're watching and you're not familiar with the Iron Dome, it's an aerial defense system developed by Israel that, for all intents and purposes, is the clouds of glory, like we know from the Torah, which is a dome above the state of Israel that detonates rockets mid-air. I'm gonna repeat that. A system that detonates rockets mid-air. Now, I had an amazing opportunity to sit with Dr. Danny Gold, who invented the Iron Dome. Now, I want to be very clear. This is not a religious man. And I said to him, Dr. Gold, tell me the story of how you built this world-class aerial defense system, the likes of which does not exist anywhere in the world, and we're talking about over 95% precision. How did you do it? What's the story? And he told me the following story. He said rockets were raining down on Israel. And he brought some of the brightest minds into a room and said, we need to fix this problem. And everyone came up with their own ideas, and he said, that's not good enough. I want to detonate the rockets mid-air. And there was silence in the room. They said, you want to what? He said, I want to detonate the rockets mid-air. And they said, Dr. Gold, that's not possible. A rocket is in the air for seconds, flying at insane speeds. You can't detonate a rocket mid-air. He said, that's what I'm going to do. And he went to the Israeli government, and he said, I want to build a system that detonates rockets mid-air. And the Israeli government looked at him and said, Dr. Gold, that's not possible. So he went to the Israeli military, the IDF, and he said, I want to build a system that detonates rockets midair. And the IDF looked at him and said, Dr. Gold, not possible. So he went to the State Department, and the US military and world-renowned military strategists, and they all told him the same thing. You can't detonate rockets midair. And Dr. Gold built it. And now we have this system, and I'll repeat it, over 95% precision. This is a miracle, the likes of splitting of the sea. I mean, literally an iron dome above the state of Israel. These are open miracles. Now, in Jewish scripture, we know we don't have open miracles today. Far be it from me to contradict Jewish scripture, but to me, this seems like an open miracle. I mean, no one in the world thought it was possible, and here we have it. But it gets much deeper than that, because Israel has 3 aerial defense systems. The Iron Dome is just the one that detonates rockets until a certain height. Above that, we have the David Sling, right? And that's higher than the Iron Dome. And above that, we have the Arrow, which is detonating rockets and missiles and drones and ballistic missiles outside of Earth's atmosphere. Now, I'm sure you can understand how each one of those systems, the Iron Dome, David Sling, and the Arrow, each independent of each other, are technological wonders. But you know what they were not built to do? To work in unison. They were never built to work together. But there were 2 nights in which Iran fired hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones into Israel, a country smaller than New Jersey. And Israel detonated 99% of them. 99%. You know how? Those 3 systems working together in unison. Now, you don't have to believe me. Go watch the people who ran those operations, and they'll be the first to tell you. These systems were not meant to work together. These are miracles that we are witnessing. The fact that they worked so perfectly, so flawlessly, is a miracle. So there's that. But what about the rockets that didn't get detonated by the Iron Dome, right? There were thousands of those. How did they not kill people? Let me tell you how. There's 2 words that everyone in this country has heard hundreds of times. The 2 words are empty spaces. The rockets that were not detonated by the Iron Dome or David Sling or the Arrow system fell into empty spaces. Now, if you've ever been in Israel, you know there are no empty spaces in this country. And if you haven't, go look at Israel on a map. This is a little speck on a map. There are no empty spaces. Where are these rockets falling? Beats me. I don't know. But, the miracles don't stop there. And again, it's difficult to use the word miracle about this because miracle has a positive connotation. This isn't a positive thing what I'm about to tell you, but, on October 7th, as the devastation unfolded and we started to understand what was going on, I told myself, as a cup half full kind of guy, at least the silver lining is that at least the world is going to stand with us now, because Hamas live streamed atrocities, and I don't need to repeat what they did. You know, and if you don't know, Google it, but at your own risk, not for the weak of heart, the faint of heart. I said to myself on October 7th, the silver lining here is that the world will definitely stand with Israel. These guys live streamed these atrocities. I'm talking murder, rape, abduction, pedophilia. There is no way the Western world doesn't stand with Israel now. That's what I told myself. And here we are a year and a half later with an unprecedented amount of anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic attacks, Jews being assaulted on the streets. It makes no sense. Now again, the word miracle is generally used in a positive context. So it's hard for me to call that a miracle. But the one thing you can say about this war, across the board from beginning to end, is that it makes no sense. I mean, how could it be that otherwise moral, intelligent people, I come from the tech world. We're talking about some of the brightest minds in the world. And they are just openly supporting Hamas, a terrorist organization comprised of murderers, rapists, and pedophiles. How do you explain that? The answer is you can't explain that. Now, it makes no sense. And let's go even deeper. The conflict as a whole. Again, we're talking about otherwise intelligent people. You explain something to me, because I have yet to hear an answer to this question. You don't need to be a historian. You don't need to know anything about the Middle East. Forget everything. You have zero knowledge about anything. Explain to me how otherwise intelligent people are saying that there's no food in Gaza, and in the next breath, they're saying the hostages are being fed well. Is there food in Gaza or is there not food in Gaza, right? Forget lying. This is a contradiction. These are people who are contradicting themselves, right? But the lies go way deeper. Let's start from the beginning. Right? What is this thing we call the Palestinian people? Who are they? Where'd they come from? Well, the father of the Palestinian movement is Yasser Arafat. Who is Yasser Arafat? Where was he born? In Cairo, Egypt. He calls himself, he's Egyptian. And in 1964, I'll remind you, well before there was any occupation, he established a Palestinian Liberation Organization. What was he liberating? There was no occupation. What was he liberating? Well, go read the charter. You don't have to believe me. The charter's online. Go read it. You know what he was liberating? Every inch of Israel. And they've said it endless times since then. They don't want a state. They had a state countless times, including, by the way, in 2005, right? Why did they attack on October 7th? They were being occupied. There wasn't a single Jew in Gaza on October 6th, not a single one. We, as in the state of Israel, forcefully removed 10,000 of our own citizens from the communities in Gaza and handed it to the Palestinians. As the world calls them Palestinians, I refuse to give in to that false narrative. The Palestinians are Arabs from Jordan and Egypt. So I'm going to call them Palestinians for clarification so that you understand what I'm talking about. But they are Palestinians. They ain't Palestinians. They're Jordanians and Egyptians. So 1964, Yasser Arafat, an Egyptian man, a terrorist, by the way, coined this thing, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Now, what was Palestine before this hijacking, no pun intended, of the word Palestine? Palestine was Israel. Again, nothing I'm saying is debatable. You don't have to, this isn't my opinion. Go Google Golda Meir's birth certificate. It says Palestine. Palestine was Israel. The word Palestine was established by the Romans to try to humiliate the Jews. And that's what it was called. But Israel was Palestine. We have actual coins that say Palestine and in parentheses, Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. Palestine was Israel. Comes along this dude, Yasser Arafat's like, I'm gonna hijack this name. 1964, started the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And like every lie about the Jews, the world just ate it up. Just ate it up. And since then, they're calling themselves Palestinian refugees. They're refugees in the open air prison that is Gaza. So let me ask you a question. Speaking of contradictions, if you're a refugee, AKA you're not in your home, and you're living in an open air prison, kindly explain to me why when Trump says to you, please, you leave and I'll build you housing, I'll give you a good life somewhere else in the world. Why are they saying, no, I want to stay, this is my home? Wait a second. Didn't you tell me yesterday you were a refugee? If you're a refugee, how are you home? Again, contradiction. The same people yelling, globalize the Intifada. What is an Intifada? Google it. An Intifada is a violent uprising. We had 2 Intifadas in Israel. Buses blowing up, cafes blowing up, suicide bombers. That's what Intifada is. So they say globalize the Intifada, AKA bring radical Islam to the streets of the West. And then the next breath, the same people are saying ceasefire now. Do they understand that they're contradicting themselves? That's the thing, though. The entire Palestinian narrative from day one is one big lie. And when you lie, the lies start to pile up. And then we see intrinsic paradoxes in their entire narrative. They are contradicting themselves nonstop, right? They say Gaza was an open air prison on October 6th. That's why they attacked. And then Israel does what it does. And now it's, before October 7th, Gaza was paradise. Look what the Zionists did. Right? Speaking of the Zionists, they're like, oh my God, world, genocide, they're killing us, help us. And then the next day, we defeated the Zionists. Dude, make up your mind. And again, you don't have to know anything. Just listen to the things they're saying. They are lying like they breathe. They open their mouth, they lie. Everything about their identity from day one is a lie. And it's important, whether you are on the quote unquote Israel side or if you lack a moral compass and you're on the Hamas side, know the facts. You don't have to believe my opinion. Know the facts, know history. Let me ask you a question. The most fundamental premise of the entire conflict is Israel's oppressing the Palestinians, and that's why they're committing terror.